You're sceptical of ULEZ. Are you a conspiracy theorist?
I think that, you know, it's a bit like 1984, when whatever the party decides to be the truth is the truth. And the thing about the truth, as George Orwell said, you can try and shut it out, but like the sun, it isn't going to go away. And when you have a mayor and his representatives who are trying to cajole and squash scientific results from Imperial College and Queen Mary University, and when you ask questions or say, we're not happy about this, people call you names like far right and conspiracist, what they're really saying is they do not want to entertain engaging in the virtue of their arguments. They don't want to argue out, thrash out the merits of the substantial parts of their points. They're scared to do that. It's what all petty tyrants and dictators do. They try to lie and obfuscate.
OK. Jim, if Sadiq Khan had serious, hard evidence that said, look, we are really genuinely going to save lives with this, why wouldn't he just keep banging on about that? Why does he have to call everybody else a crackpot?
Because basically they are conspiracy theorists. That's not everybody who might be protesting on the streets. Let's make that absolutely clear. You know, people are led to a certain degree, but we are talking about the same sort of people who deny climate change exists, the same sort of people who perhaps thought that COVID didn't exist. Then we can go back and say people who don't believe that people landed on the moon, and maybe the Flat Earth Society in exactly the same way. So throughout the ages, you've got this contingent of people who jump onto bandwagons for political reasons.
But I mean, have you got any evidence for that, though, Jim?
Have I got any evidence? It's clear from what you see. What the problem is on the other side, if you like, this is not rocket science that car exhaust, particularly of diesel, are bad for human health, bad for you know, the general health of the public. I think we all know that. We can go back to the 1960s and the Clean Air Act and all the rest of it. This is the direction of travel. And although we're arguing it today, we know that this will come in next Tuesday. Me and you are going to be in Bromley discussing it again.
Yes, we are. We're going to be on the streets tomorrow. No, I get that. All right, look, Alan, I'll throw it to you. I mean, you know, I'll just ask you the same question, really. I mean, well, I'll pick up on what Jim said, actually, which is that, you know, car exhaust fumes are bad. So I suppose anything that stops that is good.
So what Jim said when you ask him for evidence, he said basically, no, I don't have any evidence, but he said you can see it everywhere. Then he said it's not rocket science, as though somehow he's a rocket scientist. But the fact is this, a few facts. The first fact is in the last 4 decades, air has been immeasurably improved. The next fact is Sadiq Khan has said 4,000 people die every year of it. That's a complete lie. He extrapolated from the previous Imperial College research and did what they said don't do. Then his representative, Shirley Rodriguez, tried to get them to squash the fact that the reports did not say that it damages children's lungs and that it was looking badly on them, and they tried to get it suffocated, both from Imperial and Queen Mary University. There's some facts. There's also some facts about green billionaires that are funding some of these things. Now, you might call it a conspiracy for people to try and suffocate and shut down scientific evidence. But you see, rather than giving out platitudes, which Jim does and others do, I'd much more argue the merit and the content of the point. ULEZ is going to do nothing whatsoever to improve health. Actually, if he was really serious about that, he'd get underground with Transport for London to sort out some things down there. And when you start calling the public names, a whole range of diverse people, vast majority of people, just ordinary people with lots of different backgrounds who are concerned about a cash grab and not being listened to, it's a very dangerous precedent.
OK, all right. All right, Jim, I'll throw it back to you. There's quite a few little scientific facts for you to come back out there. And I think there is a wider point, isn't there, which is that if you do start to be selective about the data that you're using, that Imperial study, for example, the way that they calculated how many deaths every single year pollution was causing is a bit squiffy. They just added the amount of hours it would take off people's lives and then added that per head of population, for example. It just starts to look as though they're manipulating something in their direction, doesn't it?
Do you know the problem with data is it can be used in different directions. That's very clear. My science, meteorology and what I've used is data all the time. And I hope that we do things professionally and well and for the right reasons and give the best information. I don't think people who measure pollution do any differently. That's what they do. And I go back to the point about this is not rocket science. This is not. I'm not changing the agenda here and trying to sort of mask things for people. And I'm not labelling people either. I'm basically saying
you're not. But it's not helpful, is it? Do you think it's helpful? Like, because I'll keep with you, Jim. Because look, when I interview a lot of politicians, most days, for example, and I know when somebody is trying to shut down an argument, and they always start calling people names, right? And that's what Sadiq Khan's doing. What Sadiq Khan is really saying when he's talking about conspiracy theories is, I think that you're a conspiracy theorist, or I want other people to think that you're a conspiracy theorist if you disagree with ULEZ. And why does he need to do that?
Well, do you know what I think? I always, when I have these discussions, and sometimes they do go into the political arena, I always look for motives. Why would somebody want to be on one side rather than the other side? And normally, it leads to either political positions, posturing, if you like. There's an election coming up in London, we know that. And it seems to me that the Reform UK and Conservative mayoral candidates have jumped on that bandwagon, and that's what they're doing. On the other side, there's the fossil fuel industry and what they're doing in terms of, say, Tufton Street, providing financial, let's just say, financial pipelines to these people who put themselves on television and propose exactly what's been proposed here, that ULEZ is the wrong thing to do. It's step by step. It's the right thing to do. And by the way, most Londoners accept this in polls, well over 50%. And that's before many people actually know the actual detail.
Let me put that to Alan then. So, I mean, Alan, is that not a point that the opinion polls, do they suggest that most people are in favour of this?
No, they absolutely don't. And in fact, if you actually look at the consultation, the so-called consultation, where the majority of people said they did not want it, Sadiq Khan said, well, that's not of interest. It's not like we're doing a referendum. I don't care. In fact, some of the wrong people have responded to the actual consultation. One of the things that Jim can't seem to address and answer, if you want to talk about evidence and facts, is this. With the amount of people who are concerned about the cost of living crisis, specifics of charging people for something, unlike the smoking ban, you're saying it can still carry on, but we're just going to charge you. It has been conceded and recognised by Imperial College's research and by Queen Mary University that these claims are not substantiated. They were paid for by Sadiq Khan's office, over £800,000. What we see is people, and I go out all the time, just so we're clear, I go out all the time on the street. And the reason I do it is because I'm very concerned that in London, like in other cities, we are having these impositions done where people are just telling us these platitudes and calling us names. If you want to improve the quality and respect for the demos and the public, have the actual debate and discussion and avoid smear tactics.